Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I'm Imotembis and we are starting off Tales from the Rebellion finally. I was hoping to get some of this done started last week, but life happens, right? And things happen, so but we're good now. Everything's back to normal. We've been able to play a lot actually now. I'm happy to announce we have a webcam now. Thank you guys for all the support. I've been getting, from the subs and stuff from Twitch, so you guys help pay for that, so I want to thank you so much for all of that. Now we have been able to do some webcam games with the locals. I am planning on entering the main deck series and the cure series this time around, and yeah, aside from my two locals on Sunday and Monday, and I don't know, I really doubt I'll be able to attend any RBAs anymore because my work schedule, summer's over for me now, so we're going to be going into, I have no time for that stuff, for midday things. But anyway, we have a lot to talk about. We've got 4 decks in this episode that we've kind of already addressed. I've probably built close to 10 different decks already, and so these are the ones I've been playing with. So we're gonna actually touch up on some of the ones we've played in last set, things that got updated that feels so much better now, right? We're also gonna be talking about Glaciela a little bit, and then Durando, which is probably my favorite card so far. So we're gonna get into all that. Let's jump right in, right? So the Water Lightning Scions list. You guys are familiar with it already, right? We've talked about this last set. We saw it floating around towards the end of the opus, right? We kind of brought it into the limelight a little bit, with one of the last episodes of the Tales episodes. So, and then we started seeing the Leo version come up in Japan. But now things have changed, right? We have the new Alice, which is a fantastic card. When you enter the field, choose a card from the break zone, add it to your hand, and at damage 3, also get a Scion in the break zone, right? So you can get 2 cards back at 3 damage, which is just, it's great recursion. He plays himself, lets you kind of fluctuate the next few turns, right? Kind of it doesn't almost matter what you pitch getting here, because you're able to recover things, right? And even after Miss Dragons, after the new Edwards and all this kind of things, he could, at the very least, he's free when you play him, right? Assuming you're pitching forwards and a Scion forwards, or 2 cards, right? 2 forwards. And so he kind of just generates a lot of things. The biggest thing too, obviously, is that now we have more Scion targets for Y'shtola and kind of just ways to keep the board intact and have a little more value, right? Alpha Nod is the other one too. I love how they both came in the perfect colors for this thing, right? Because we have the Thancred and Y'shtola already. When he enters the field, when Alpha Nod enters the field, draw 2 and then discard 1, and at 5 damage, choose a cost of 4 or less from that's not Alpha Nod in your break zone and play it onto the field. So this deck is now going to be, if you run into this deck, it's unfortunate, but you will never be able to take it to 4 or 5 damage now. This is the early version, by the way, guys. We haven't updated this. This is where we started, pretty much. Like I said, we're going to go into the changes as the series progresses. That way you guys can understand it. But pretty much, it's this card is one of the biggest reasons this deck is so threatening now. Because at 5, you cannot take it to 5 damage, right? Because at 5 damage, you have that. You're able to Thancred into Alpha Nod, bring out Y'shtola, and then it's just there's a lot of ways. So there's so much recursion from the break zone now with Oracle and Alpha Nod, and it's just a different deck than it was before. And there's a lot of changes to make this a bigger at damage caps for the deck. And so we're gonna need cards that get us there a little faster. We have there's a backup, there's forwards, and there's summons that do this to us. So we're gonna need to find a little bit of balance for it, but that's where we are. I'm still playing the Realm, and I threw in just a random Behemoth K because we're playing the Felthanos in the back row now. In the situation where we are, have them all up, but for some reason we can't clear, or we're waiting for Y'shtola to do the board clears. Playing a Felthanos and then tapping all my Scions, and letting Oracle die to bring another Scion out is it's a very nice piece. I still think I like the other Felthanos a little bit more, but I think we're going to need to change how we approach making sure we always have Y'shtolas in hand outside of Chadley and Alchemist. Yeah, the Thankrits, the staples are still pretty much the same. I kind of mess with the monster numbers a little bit, but this is the no summon package. It still feels decent, but because of the being able to reborn stuff is a little more crucial now. We might need to move into the summon package, with the Famfrits and Atomoses and things like any kind of lightning, some lightning stuff too. The best thing about this deck is that it doesn't suffer from being Ixioned too much, right? Because we have higher cost cards. These are only 3s of these, which we don't mind that they die because we usually end up reborning them or bringing them back into play somehow. And that's the main thing. The skeleton control thing is still very nice in my opinion. I still enjoy it. Even if we take out the Cleon Worms and Trosses and stuff, I don't know why, but I feel like playing skeletons and this Oriandra is still a better bet. I don't want to cram too many 14 cards that don't do that much for me to play the 2-drop reveal one, but I need to mess with it a little bit more. I haven't explored. I kind of just took the old list, added the new guys, made some backup changes. That's all, right? And so I have to see. I'm gonna get into, choosing the right ones and seeing if the 2-drop EX Burst Lightning one is a more viable option than the dual colored one or this one. The summoners and the cleans are, I guess, the important part for this list. You want to make sure that you stop, the Mist Dragon or the Amaterasu. The Alchemist, like I said, is here just to, if you have extra Lakshmi while she's on board, pitch her, get the Y'shtola, or get the Oracle, get whatever, right? Chadley's the same thing. Now we can play Louis Soir, which is nice, right? Because we can search them. So we have an extra bridge play here. So we have our searchers here. But yeah, that wraps this one up. We're going to move on to Black Tie Optional, which is the Turks. I've already seen this one flying around. We saw it on RVA a few weeks ago. I've been testing, or some of our other locals have been testing it too. And so this is just a weird take on mine. I wanted it to... I learned a lot from playing it last set, right? And seeing everyone else play it as well. So there's a few key points that I wanted to bring out. Scarlet is a surprisingly very well placed control card. And I think in an early environment where you're playing... where you're opening the Shinra President and maybe a Scarlet, you can kind of do interesting things with this card. And she's one of the cards that I think it's something that Ice has that it's if you don't answer it, we're going to be a problem for you down the road. And so she's very nice. The Legendary Turk, I'm still not set on, but we're playing at 3 because we want to hit always on Seng. I don't like how expensive he feels. I haven't gotten to the point where I need him so much yet. I haven't played this one enough yet either. I've probably played 3-4 games with this deck as is. But the Cisne is a nice, a nice relief for this deck. We needed removal that also developed board that also pushed us towards our goal, right? Which is have all of them out. So now we have, we can have any combination. The best thing that if you guys haven't thought of too is that they're 2-drops. So in an event, in a situation where CP is crucial, I would rather sacrifice, playing the Rude to keep him brave, and have Reno, Cisne, Legendary Turk, and Elena out to get the trigger, right? And then just go for the haste and stuff, right? And sure, Rude could be good. If I have already Rude in these guys, then playing 2 here, 2 CP for these is so much better. So we're adding in a couple of other 7 cards to kind of make Zac viable. So as long as you have a category 7 character of an element other than lightning, right? So we have Genesis, Tifa, Aerith, Cloud, and I guess Rufus technically. I don't know. I can actually have to double verify, but he might also be lightning, so I don't think he counts. But we also have the Scarlet, right? And so all of these makes him a 3 cost 9k. Also the Kate Sith, right? It didn't specify forward, so we have these. I had Don Corneo in here for a little bit just as well, but I think we made some better choices here. And when he dies, you can bring in the Tifa or the Sang, and then kind of start the ramp play. Right, the play is that at some point he will die, or you leave him active and he eats something, or he trades, or he dies, and then that's towards the after the end of your opponent's turn, somewhere in the middle there, and you're dropping your Sang to reveal to play the Reno and the Root, and it's like, okay, now my opponent has to decide. Am I gonna clear the board? They forces them to use an extra amount of CP on the end of their turn to kind of deal with the situation you've laid out, all while still holding cards in hand, not paying for the Sang and stuff like that. So also the Tifa, you'll take a point of damage, but you're also able to buff your other guys too, and then it's just, there's a lot of variables here too, right? The Aerith and the Cloud are just for support. I put the Cosmos in here just to color fix in case, also in the weird situation that they both have to be played at the same time. It doesn't come to that, but lastly also to maybe fix the Tifa if I need to play her towards the end and I don't have Earth or Cloud anymore or whatever, or Zax, So it's a little thing. So the Cloud gets us anything pretty much in the deck. Usually you go for Shinra or Sang if you don't have it or whatever. And he's out. He's a form of removal for us. You have the Aerith to pick back the right pieces when you're ready. And yeah, that's it. I like Heidegger and Palmer at 1. They each have a way of getting you to the right card you need. So I think playing each of them is important. I just don't think playing one over the other twice is that much better. So to me, having each of them at 1 is just whether I see one or not, we're going to be able to get them, right? So this one reveals top 5, get 1 card, and this one is look at the top 4 cards, add 2, and then put the rest of the breaks on, right? And you can only use ability cards if you have no cards in hand. So it's there's ways for you to get to these points, and this is also the way you're trying to get to the combo, right? The finishing combo, the Turk, 4 attacks in a turn kind of thing. If I have no cards in hand and backups, then I'm drawing, the two guys I need, and then I'm able to play them or something, right? Or look for them. So, 1 summoner for the just in case. I'm finding the Lulu making people laugh, but I think having them at right above 8k makes Amaterasu feel a little less bad in this deck. So if you have Lulu out early, I kind of want to bump her up early so we can see it more often and see it right away. But, Sang doesn't die, Alcid doesn't die. Sisne might die, I think, even at 3 damage she dies, but it's not about that, right? It's these pieces don't die, and then everyone's just that much bigger, and it makes it that much more complicated. Zeromus doesn't die also. So, and then the Searchers, and 1 Chadley to recoup towards the end. It's playing better. I don't know if it's going to move up in the tier list in the decks this month. We've just practiced regularly. I can't recall any matches where I'm just going crazy and dominating yet. But again, with this one and the Scion one, we've probably played maybe 10 games total, 5 here and 5 there, so not a lot. The next ones are the ones we've been kind of grinding into. This is the Water Ice Glaciela. So we got a lot to talk about on this one. So the deck is pretty straightforward, right? Build crystals, keep Glaciela and Physalis, right? That's your thing. Optionally, you have the King to kind of just super dull and freeze your opponent's board. It has an expensive cost. And so we kind of have to facilitate everyone to do their part to generate crystals. Agrius, Sarah, Glaciela, even Setzer, let your other guys die. And himself, obviously, and then the Knights, the backups, and everything, right? The biggest problem I'm having with this deck is, I don't know, man. I think Glaciela is just fine by herself. I know Physalis is a great card, but I'm thinking that Physalis and the King don't need to be in here. Sarah Mobius is also not really that great sometimes. Sure, when you hit a backup, it feels great, but then you're also the extra reason she's in here for me is for the Setzer. Setzer's, we're able to cheat things in, and Sarah helps with that. But like, there's a lot of different moving pieces in this deck, right? Because we have Setzer like strategies, we have FFBE crystal strategies, discard strategies, and like there's too many options in this deck, but they don't like lend each other. They don't lend to each other's goals in a weird way. They kind of all work individually. So when you're missing a piece for other ones, it kind of feels bad all the time. Actually, a new favorite card is Musario. I've kind of like understand why they were printed together, and if it wasn't clear before, you want to drop her turn 1 while you have this guy in hand. If you have him in hand, she should always be out. And she's just going to generate crystals. With crystals being more important, I had to throw him in here. If they try to target her, they'll have to discard before whatever's supposed to kill her resolves. You could bring Musario out for free and save her if it's possible, right? And what I mean by that is, one thing is like Brynhilder's. If you have Musario in hand and they try to Brynhilder her, you will let them discard. After the discard resolves, before Brynhilder resolves, you can play Musario from back on their turn as a back attack, and then just target Agrius to dull, but she goes up to 8 because you have an FFT card now. So it's just, the value is really good, and I find it much more important now than I did before, and I didn't see the merit in it when it was printed, and I do now. So yeah, this deck has been testing well. We're making changes as we go. I think you have to lean more into the discard, because the crystal stuff is just not enough sometimes. We also need more searchers, right? Like, I need to have Glaciela when I need her, so I have to add Whirlwibs in here, or even Sildras or something. The FFB searchers and other searchers aren't in these colors, so we definitely need Whirlwibs in here. Or we need more ways to draw cards to get this there. I'm considering adding the Lakshmis in here as well, but I'm kind of building these decks as sometimes like 2-deck format, right? Because I can't have this and this, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't take both of these options with me. The other problem, which I've always mentioned, is that all my decks want to play water, right? Like, I actually would love to have every water variant, like water ice, water earth, water fire, water wind, water lightning, and water ice. Because I find those are my favorite ways to play. And then just, the draw power. Water's still always going to be my favorite element, with Earth being a close second, and yeah. So, is this deck strong? Yes. The problem is, it needs to be harnessed. I saw that Kurosawa pointer list. I know YYT has come out with one as well. I have my gripes with each of them, but again, I feel like the deck needs a little more time to evolve, and the meta needs to define itself a little bit more before this can balance out in terms of lines and like how to finish, right? Because all of the cards are good, right? Like, and then everything takes crystals, right? So Agrius creates crystals, Lennon eats them, Sarah eats them, Glacia eats them, Setzer eats some, and the king eats a lot, and then even Chantotos, which is still the best card, is one of the best cards in this deck, eats them as well. So we need more crystals with less like problems and more focus, right? So you could cut. I do plan on cutting the king. I think he's a great card still, but he's a little slow and a little big, and he's more of a win more card, right? Because if you're in a situation where you're pushing game and you drop this guy and it's kind of crushing if they can't answer him, right? Also, you would need the crystals. The biggest problem that this one has too is that we can play these backups, but they kind of we don't have ways to recur them the way we do in Earth, like with Robo and stuff. So I don't know. I'm gonna explore more, but my biggest thought here for you guys is that Glaciela is good on her own. She don't need no one else. Because at the second that you involve someone else when building a deck around Glaciela, you're waiting for Glaciela to do everything, and it's kind of boring, and it's not practical either, right? Like, unless you're already winning an already decent amount of like ahead, having your Physalis out and then playing Glaciela to do one or the other isn't that great. Whereas I'd rather just have Glaciela, play Glaciela, she does her thing, and then Physalis is, for example, a Cuchulainn or Leviathan, or in other variants, in other decks, whatever spell or whatever summon you need. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's gonna take a little more time. These are the first versions, again, by the way, everyone. So as the weeks progress in this series, we will show you updated versions as well as what's working. Lastly, my favorite thing so far is Mono Earth control, like full on control Durando thing. 2 Aerith, 2 Arceala, 3 Durando, 1 Kadaj, 2 Kefka, 3 Roble, Veritas, Arden, Titan, and Shadowlord. The biggest thing I hear every time is that, oh, Earth got another board clear. Yes. So what if I told you there was a deck that you could put them all in and you would still do really, really good? This is that deck. I'm glad I'm sharing this now. I was gonna wait a little bit, but I'm sharing it now before you guys see it elsewhere. I'm pretty sure this is the first time you're gonna hear about this, but Arceala is a busted card. Durando is a busted card. Shadowlord is a really good card, very meta relevant right now. There's a lot of standard unit / job decks, samurais, monks, dragoons, dancers, to name a few, that this card kind of just shuts them down with one, like, on entry. And it's pretty good. So, and then with the Hecatons and Totos, right? All of these cards are very... Oh, and Arden is also one of my old favorite cards. This deck, in my opinion, has been building itself, but cards like Arceala and Durando and Shadowlord finally put... Oh, and Titan. Titan is just the best card also in this set. These are one of my top 3 favorite cards, and we talked about them in the set reviews and stuff. But yeah. So Aerith, give everybody buffs. Very simple. You want to have Arceala and Durando bigger if you need them to. Although Arceala already does her thing, if she's allowed to survive and get off her effect, she becomes extremely problematic for most fire decks, as well as other summon heavy decks. And she's just a big problem to deal with. I want to put her to 3, but I'm looking for space here. Durando, if you don't remember, when he deals you a point of damage, get a forward and a backup back from your breaks. His S is to make him can't be chosen by abilities, 4K and Brave. So effectively, if you're able to have it, you can just get your Durando back over and over again and keep going and keep going. Kadaj is a facilitator for multiple things. Obviously, the removal is always key, but pumping them to 2K and Brave, aside from Aerith, is also a great thing. I actually always find myself searching him first and drawing into the other pieces. And by that I mean with Tyro or whatever. Kadaj is too important. So Kefka, actually only in here for Crystal Generation. So probably a flex pick. The reason we need Crystal Generation is because Earth did not get enough. And I know why, because this deck would be 10 times better. Because Roble is too good of a card. He not only does removal, but if he goes unanswered, he wins games, right? Because you're drawing, you have an extra 2 CP every turn, and your pitches matter a little less. So you're always prioritizing optimal cards in hand, as opposed to thinking ahead, to kind of, develop board. And so, yeah, that's probably the reason Earth didn't get more crystal generators in general. Veritas is coming back because he's very controlling, and his effects are still relevant in this game. So Arden, also a big answer. The more you deal with people, the more this guy just comes out and he can't be broken by anything. Is very nice. So he survives Arden, survives Shadowlord, survives Titan, survives anything my opponent has to throw at him. Pretty much Susano. The only thing he doesn't survive are Famfrits for the most part right now. And so having all of these other pieces in play and board clears my opponent, he just sits there while everything happens. You guys know Titan, Shadowlord, what they do, so it's pretty simple. Carbuncle to keep everyone alive. since everything is Earth, you'll always be drawing that card, and then these guys are at 9 and 11 respectively. Also helps him clear bigger things for much cheaper. The Kusits, Mist Dragons, very common in this list. The Titan is the big one, because we don't like stuff like Shinryu and just anything that's really gets in our way. Titan just says no. We kind of want to make everyone huge all the time, so this is a big part of it. We can also just Titan my whole board and then Hecaton their board, and it's a big deal sometimes too. We have CP for that. The one Hades in here is kind of like he could probably go now after playing it. He's good, but I don't know if he's good enough yet. Like for this list, there's not enough for him. There's not enough damage for him to like benefit from this. Yeah, because his ability is when this forward is dealt damage, break this forward, right? So I don't have anything that just inherently pings. So his extra ability is kind of wasted on him. It's just his first engine is what makes it good. But we have to, if you draw Hades and Rubble, it's good. If not, he kind of just makes his way into the deck later. I could probably replace this and find a way to put Mira and Luminous Puma in here somehow, and then we'd be off in a better spot, I think. The next thing is some of the backup choices that we highlight. Gladiator, because of the damage 5 thing, the Rubble thing. Also, it's just if you don't remember this card, until the end of the turn, all your forwards you control gain 1,000 power. And Brave, he's the one from last set when you can return them and play them again, and then break them at damage 5 to do these things. With cards like Rubble and Durando, getting these back at 5 damage is just such a big deal or such a problem for your opponent. And so, you have the Kusits as well to recover them. And we've done it already a few times. I'm confident to say it's very possible your opponent doesn't suspect this. Well, they will now, but or you will now as well. But this card is very dangerous when you have like Durando, Arciela, and maybe a Rubble on board, and then every turn it's just like, oh great, they're plus 10 and Brave, and yeah, no EX Burst is gonna save me here. Well, at least any of the damage ones. We have an Cross for extra buff, Rydia to search Mist Dragons and or Titans, or your Hecatons really, just to kind of clear the way. We usually leave these in deck unless you absolutely need them because they're your EX burst counts. Momori is probably the one we can take out for something else. I'm not sure yet, but we do like Dark Knight. I've liked this card since last set. So the cost to cast Dark Knight is reduced by 1 for each point of damage you've received. And then you can tap for 2 Earth and Colorless to pump someone for 1,000 for each point of damage you received. So, if you're still, this is like a help you build up when you're being rushed. And he's always like he's never 3. You shouldn't play him at 3 because you'll have other options here, like to kind of like for your bridge plays, which means you'll take an extra point of damage, which means he costs 1 or 2 or 3 effectively. And so, yeah, and he helps out with the late game as well, which is the other thing your opponent also doesn't really want to do, right? So, in the events where your Titan needs to get over 12k, sure, I'll Titan and then pump him, right? Or, you're trying to kill Durando or Kadaj or Rubble, nah, we're just going to pump him, right? Like, when Tyro's not active, this is pumping plus 4. When Tyro's active, this is a possible plus 7k. Aside from having, if you have Enna cross out and stuff, right? All these ones are all like breakable and liftable, so fluctuating between these is normal, right? Like having space for these is okay. Yeah, that's the list. We got second place at locals with this on Monday. Played against Mono Fire. Was it Soiree? I don't think so. The new 6 deck, Avalanche, and Lightning and Fire 14. Only lost to Mono Fire. I think it was a misplay on my part. For the most part, it was a good game, but I think I could have done one thing differently that would have made a big difference. But I try to keep Arciela alive when I should have kept Robo alive because I would have gotten the Gladiator back the next turn. Silly stuff, but that's all. I know this one's long, it's overdue, so sorry for that. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to leave everything broken down. If there's other decks or cards you want to see, leave them in the comments below. I will get to them. We will build things. We will fix those decks. We will answer those questions. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.